Hi, today this video I want to talk about is related to homeschooling application. There's one part which is quite key, is preparing the teaching plan or curriculum as they call it. Now the curriculum has a few components, and one of it is the skills to be developed and the learning outcome. Now this video I want to specifically share with you what's the best way to actually prepare this curriculum according to the MOE standard, so all Ministry of Education Singapore standard. What's the best way? Because personally I made the mistake of not specific enough and not showing enough progression from one year to the next. So I also just want to show you what resources I've used, all free. What's the tips and tricks to best do this?
So first thing is that we go to the website of MOE and we look under primary school subjects and syllabus. This is the official source where they will put down the syllabus or the curriculum that the ministry would like each students. What's the learning outcomes? What are the areas that they have to achieve by subject? So this is the English example. Definitely this is the first place to start. But what I find is that the issue with this is that it is not specific enough, but definitely we should start here because you will need to make sure you cover all these areas like listening and viewing, all these areas that they talk about, you need to cover them. As you can see, they have quite clear writings from primary 1 to P6, right? But as you can see, some of it is overlap for maybe 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. So then how do you make it specific enough for each year? And then how do you show the progression from one year to the next? That's the key we want to cover, right? But definitely use this resource as a start. It's very, very important because you need to cover all these areas first that, like for English, for example, it's definitely listening, speaking, writing, and reading, right? That's the basic. And then what I do is because they also have grammar and vocabulary, but what I do is I incorporate the correct use of grammar, so the right use of grammars in each level into the writing, because I think if you can write well, you naturally be using all these correct grammars. Similarly, for vocabulary, I'm incorporating this into my writing so that my curriculum doesn't become overly long, and then yet I still cover all the bases. I will show you later how to make it more specific, right? But let's just bear with me first. Let's cover all this key resource that you should first use, which is the MOE website. Next is this Chinese, or mother tongue. I'm using this Chinese as an example. I believe it's quite similar for Malay and also Tamil. Scroll down to the right at, where you see tables where they actually tell you primary 1, primary 2, what are the different areas that you have to do. So for example here, right, they have to recognize or know how to read X number of words in P1, P2 and so forth. But as you can see, they always try to group like primary 1 and primary 2 together, and then primary 3 and primary 4 together and so forth. After this, I will just show you how you can make it more specific. And there's a tip here where if you really cannot, one way is to say the first time you introduce the subject is beginning to use or beginning to learn or learning, right? These are some of the words you can use. The second year that they're reading the same content, you can then say mastering, right? Or more proficient, very proficient in using these skills, or very, very proficient and mastering application of this knowledge, right? This is what you can do. Now for specifically for Chinese, there are specifically number of words that they need to learn at the end of primary 1 and at the end of primary 2 and so forth. They also need to know. So the first column is know how to recognize reading. Second column is know how to write X number of words. So what I have done is actually literally go and count, how many words in P1 that they need to know how to read by the end of year 1, and how many words they need to write by the end of year 1 without any help, right? Basically, that means if it's in a test, that they are able to do this themselves. This is how you can show is a very specific outcome, right? You don't have to say the words. You don't have to say what are the words, but you have to count, and then they will know what you're talking about. Yeah. Similarly for maths. Now for maths and science is generally simpler. Maths and science is enough to just use this resource, this MOE syllabus, which is on their website, to complete the teaching plan or the curriculum that you are submitting if you're using the MOE standard, right? So it is very, very good enough already. Very, very clear. They also show the progression already from one year to the next. So you're good to go for maths and science, yeah? So for maths, right, you have to refer to two files because the first file, I think they have updated for primary 1 and primary 2 only, whereas the second file, the older file, will give you the primary 3 to primary 6 onwards. Be very careful that you want to just take the syllabus or the curriculum for the standard level. So there is like primary 5 foundation or primary 5 standard. Just make sure you use the ones for standard, right? Just to make it simple. For science, something to note is that the learning outcomes is quite similar for primary 3 and 4. So my experience is that the officer that's in charge of my application, to assess my application, allow me to actually group the primary 3 and primary 4 learning outcomes and areas to be covered, and the resources I used together. So it's actually made my work very, very simple, because it is then you can take directly from this MOE website syllabus, right? Similarly for primary 5 and primary 6, he allowed me to group them together. I suggest you also do this method as your first submission first. Unless they ask you to split it, then at least you can go with this simple approach. Now moving on, right, this is how to make it more specific. So you just go to Google, type in P1 English Curriculum PDF. So again, as I told you, we only need to do this for primary 1 and English and mother tongue language only. So you have to go down to see these examples, right? So for example, here I click on the head primary school 1, and you will see, because they publish this as these are the briefing packs they use to brief their parents, and this is a very good resource I found that will give you a good sense of what are the things, very, very specific. For example, here, oral competence. So P1 and P2, they need to do this, right? And then P3 and P4. So this itself, you can really straight away, take it into your learning outcomes. And then here they split further. P1, you need to do a show and tell. And then P2, pick and tell. And they actually tell you what it is. So you can definitely use this to help you in your writings. Listening skills, what is this? So this is for a primary 1 curriculum briefing. So you can definitely use this, literally you can use their words. It's already very concise, very, very clear. This is the things that they're looking for, very concise, very clear, and very importantly, progression. So again, for P2, you can say continuous, right, familiarization, right? P1, you can say familiarize, right? Start to familiarize, yeah? So this is how you can use the same words, but then make it to show progression. This, you see, they will actually tell you what are the examples of writings, what are the topics that they're expected to write in P1 or primary 1, and then so forth, right? So this is a very good ones. This is free, literally, but you just need to know how to find them. So literally, you can use this, and then of course you can continue to search further. But yeah, again, you see they tell you actually what you can do, you know, like go to the library. So these are the things you should definitely cover in your curriculum plan, because they will want to know how are you planning to impart all these skills to your child. Now here you can see it is specific, very, very clear. You can literally take these points, directly live this into your curriculum plan for primary 1. Yeah. So here you will see writing, right? Write a simple paragraph of at least 3 sentences to recount appropriately sequenced events. So later we will see primary 2, what is the next level. So sometimes the PDF will not load immediately, so you can try to refresh again. I have also tried, you know, sometimes if you open in a new tab, it doesn't work so well. So just click directly in that, the search page may work better. So these are the different tips and tricks that, you know, that you can learn from my experience, learn from my mistakes as well. So these are some of the, again, you know, they this go on to further explain what are the learning outcomes that they will be able to do. You can incorporate this as well, but just make sure when you incorporate them, you're able to show the progression. If not, you include them in, let's say, in primary 1 or primary 2, but in primary 3, you don't talk anything about it, then better you just leave it out, yeah? So simple is better, okay? So for example, like this is primary 2, they need to retell a story, retell a familiar story in their own words. So this is something new. Just now in primary 1, you didn't see that, right? Stimulus-based conversation, I think here as well, this is primary 2. Primary 1, I don't think we see that just now. Yeah, so definitely watch out for the thing. Now, guided writing, just now was just write 3 sentences. This is guided writing. That means you need to write like a paragraph, or, you know, a few paragraphs, because you need 4 pictures. So you need at least like maybe 12 sentences, right? So this is the progression. Primary 3, I will show you again. Primary 3, they are more specific, because primary 3 is when written exams start to be introduced. So here the standards definitely are much higher, you will see. So here there's a quite continuous writing. You know, you start to be tested on continuous writing. That means you write a piece that really makes sense, a composition of at least 100 words. So P3, you start to introduce writing composition of at least 100 words, right? You can see that. So just to recall, right, primary 1 is at least 3 sentences. Primary 2, you have to write guided writing based on 4 pictures. That's probably like, you know, 8 to 12 sentences, right, on average. So, you know, it definitely has shown an improvement. P3, primary 3 is when you have to write a composition that flow at least 100 words, right? Okay. See, this is continuous writing. Here you will see in primary 4, it increased a bit, write a composition of at least 120 words. So you can see there is that progression, right? And this is a primary 5. Primary 5, you can see they start to introduce something called situational writing. Situational writing, they actually explain to you here. It's actually more formal writing. It's not no longer a composition based on guided pictures anymore. You're having a new piece of writing. So situational writing is informal or formal letter, right? Show good understanding of purpose, audience, and context. So primary 5 is when you will be doing a situational writing already. Yeah. So example here is write an email. So something formal. And then also, as you can see, primary 5, you have to increase the continuous writing to at least 150 words. I hope this shows you the kind of progression, and this is the kind of specificity that they are looking for. Here as well, you can see, you know, what kind of resource that they actually suggest you to use. Yeah. Moving on, this is a Chinese. Again, similarly, you can type in P1 Chinese curriculum PDF. Scroll down, right? You will see that PDF with those schools name. One is the one that you really want to see. Like this, you see again, when I open a new tab, perhaps there are many tabs open. Sometimes this is the issue as well. When I open a new tab, it doesn't work. But I think if I open in the search page, directly clicked on it, it worked. But as I said, sometimes it doesn't work immediately on the first try. You have to refresh. And then, here it comes. I think maybe one issue with my computer sometimes a bit slow. It could be because I have many tabs open. And I'm also, running video editing software in the background. Perhaps this takes up a lot of memory. So perhaps for you, it will be faster. Just to give you a sense, this is the kind of process you have to wait for. Yeah, so finally it come up. So this is which school? I cannot even remember this, but yeah. So definitely you can see. Just scroll through, because sometimes you may get other ideas, so for example, you can see what other resources they use, right? I will do another video on exactly what kind of resources you can use, where can you get those resources very easily, right? Because you really want to save time, because I spent a lot of time preparing this curriculum. That was the time I spent the most. So you can see here for Chinese, you can straight away take all these points, because even for mother tongue, the curriculum plan has to be prepared in English. So definitely you can use this straight away and leave this to your primary one. So this is the primary two. This is, I believe, is Sengkang Primary School. This is my searches that I have done in the past, so I just quickly show you instead of showing you again how I have searched this again. You can see normally for Chinese the textbooks is very standard for each of the years, even for activity books, exercise books, and even flashcards, very standard. For English, there's no standard textbooks that is used by that is recommended by the ministry. So you have to decide what kind of books you want your child to read for English. Yeah. So again, you will see, right, this see they tell you some resources, like you can cite NLP Chinese storytelling, and then you can see all this kind of foundation or culture center where you can go there to additional resource for your child, right? Here, this is primary 2, I think. Yes, this one, they have show and tell in Chinese, so you can start introducing that. Primary 1, there's no show and tell. It's just simple conversation. But you can see the resources is the same, but this is for them P2. See show and tell, right? This is P3. P3, you have to write at least 50 words. This is primary 5. This is for Chinese. I believe it will be the same as well for Tamil and Malay. You just have to search accordingly, right? So let's say you will use P1 Malay curriculum PDF as a search to start off that search or kick off. This will show you also the kind of see here they will tell you oral conversation, what are the topics that they will typically cover, right? So you see speaking sentences, thinking and thought from different perspectives. So all these you can use in your learning outcomes. Here as well, from primary 5, the words is increased to 100 words. So perhaps you can deduce from there, because P3 is 50, right? At least 50 words. P5 is 100 words. So maybe P4 you can write at least 80 words, right? This you sometimes you have to use a bit of your creativity as well and your own judgment. Yeah. So this is P6. P6 I believe is the same. It's also 100 words.
Hope this helps you in some way, and all the best in your homeschooling application. All right. Okay. Thank you.